Ya Jule no nomogun dilan nga ma thring e yulzik nengi ja Achoe Nyingstam juenin nga daksa in Taiwan e galsa Taipei na nga karu Global Youth Trends Forum zate jikste ne yunu muskyong thangme tomra chenmo jik chen luk tena nga nye delchat sumshat in pin sebes korlangya ja juin yang iruang nga dring ngamo ne lep dring zasten ba Saturday jaga nija mane alam live tanga sindo diring ngamong Paris nele karu France shizin President Macron tene glaciers and poles kung pangasi tangri gun ng South Pole North Pole gune nasluks ng te score la tozleng epia zamling gangpe tene shidlon shizin lonpo sangme zumra chenmo bote dupin yang tena nga ngatang Himalaya score tenang nang Ladakh se score la nasluks bunchadala na Paris la jas.
Bonjour mesdames et messieurs.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Once again, allow me to say how happy I am alongside heads of state and of governments, international organizations, ministers, ambassadors. Allow me to say in a couple of words what we've been doing in the past few days. First of all, I would like to thank all of the scientists who were here and who led this work and allowed this first summit to take place.
The reason why there are climate disasters in different parts of the world is that the glaciers and the ice are melting.
The German Environment Ministry is working in projects with Arctic indigenous groups as equal partners.
We all understand that the Arctic is warming at 3 to 4 times the global average and remains a challenge for us.
Now we wanted to look at whether this can be also scaled up to take care of glacial lakes that are dangerous. Can we turn them into opportunities? Can we siphon them out to lower their level so that the risk is less? And can we freeze them into these storage systems? And we did a prototype in 2016 in Sikkim on a lake that recently burst and caused a lot of damage. You may have heard in the news. So in 2016, together with the Sikkimese Department of Science and Technology, we did a joint expedition taking on yachts, not just people's belongings, but these. These were pipes for siphoning, a small prototype to test the concept. Yachts carrying these pipes, reaching the Lonak Lake at 17,200 feet, roughly 4 days of trek, and then we installed these pipes on the lake, floated them down. Paris thing ne iru yang Ladakh se nazluk, Ladakh se Koryuge nazluk, Ladakh se Tangri gune nazluk, yang Ladakh lar sunskok to bochestam si kakchanin tes korla juin yotpin dilane Achoe Nyingstam nanga I tozleng na nye kazuk si juspin tewo Nija Sanchez la pulin.
So now let's welcome Mr. Sonam Wangchuk with a round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning and Jule as we greet in Ladakh. I bring you very warm greetings from a very cold place, high up in the Himalayas in India called Ladakh. I'm very grateful to the Youth Development Agency here, YDA, that has brought so many young people to discuss such an important issue. And I'm very much impressed by what the minister shared about what Taiwan is doing in this regard. Now, I wanted to bring you home the first-hand experience from the high Himalayas, where we are seeing the effects of how people live in the big cities of the world. The glaciers there, which are the lifeline not only of the people like us who live there, but also of roughly 2 billion people, 1/4 of the Earth's population, depend directly or indirectly on the glaciers of the Himalayas, often called the third pole of the planet. So what is happening up there so that it doesn't remain like a drawing room discussion, coffee table discussion about environment and life goes as usual, but something that a person who you met has seen up in the mountains, a first-hand message I thought would be very useful for you as you strive to change things in your own countries. Before I go on, let me introduce you a little bit to my part of the world. So I come from Ladakh, which is in the top north of India, in the Indian Himalayas, just entering the Tibetan plateau. Himalayas is lush and green. You would have heard of Kashmir, Shimla, very green. But as you cross the Himalayas, the Trans-Himalayas are very different. Very dry, high plateau at roughly 3,000 to 4,000 meters altitude. And it is in the rain shadow of the Himalayas, so very little rain, just 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters in a whole year, which means when I open my windows in the morning, it looks more like Mars or Moon. This, by the way, is a picture of the Mars, just to wake you up. But what you'll see is what I see outside my window every morning. Not very different, huh? Very similar, except for some human signs there. So this is how my part of the world is, and you can imagine with just 10 centimeters of water, life is not very easy. And yet, our ancestors, who I am very proud of, did not give up. They looked for other ways of not just surviving, but thriving in these conditions. At this height, life resembles more like outer space than on Earth. You can see the temperature swings more like outer space. So this is what I'm happy and proud of. My ancestors made green oases in the middle of these dry deserts. When they didn't find any water, easy water from the skies, they went beyond the mountains to use fossilized water from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, which are called glaciers. And they converted what very few parts of the world do, deserts into greens rather than deforestation. This is one place where you have seen afforestation. So, amidst these harsh realities, a colorful civilization thrived with its own music, dance, language, literature, and a lifestyle in perfect harmony with nature. But now, for no fault of ours, things are changing. And with climate change, our glaciers are melting and melting very fast. These glaciers that I spoke of not only are important for us, but 2 billion people. There are roughly 50,000 glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayas, and this one picture frame that I took from the aircraft shows roughly 10 glaciers, so many of them, but they are melting away very fast. This one that I used to admire when I was young as a majestic, towering glacier across the road has become a shadow of itself. It's called the Drangrung Glacier. And as they melt, they don't go away silently. This is what happens. As they melt, they leave torrents under them. So the melt water comes down, and when it is very, very sunny or warm, nowadays with temperatures rising, there can be flash floods. They make glacial lakes, which are like ticking time bombs. When they burst, there are flash floods. And nowadays, even the clouds cross over the Himalayas, so we get cloudbursts. Again, they make flash floods. This is a village that had a big flash flood in 2006, and I went with my students to volunteer help for them. And when I was working in the village, I thought of asking people how often they see this. So I went and looked for the oldest man possible, and I found somebody in his 80s and asked him when was the last time he had seen similar flood. And he said, I don't remember. I've only heard stories, don't remember. That was 2006. The next one was 2010, when quarter of the city was washed away and roughly 1,000 people disappeared. The next one was 2013. The next 2017. This is the frequency of such crises in the high Himalayas, where people don't do much to contribute but have to take the brunt, together with those by the oceans who will see also consequences of these. Now, we in the mountains are also not sitting hand on hand as silent spectators. We want to do everything that we can do, but the solution is not in the mountains, though. So, personally, after I finished my mechanical engineering, I wanted to support education that could be meaningful in the mountains, that doesn't destroy nature. So we started an alternative school called SECMOL, where educational reform and environmental sensitivity both could be brought in. So this was a school in mid-90s which was fully solar powered, solar electrified, solar heated, and built with mud or earth as a building material, most natural material. Perhaps the world's first school campus to be net zero. And net positive even is what we try to achieve. At the school, the students take charge and they run the school like a little country with its own government, its own little parliament, and students take responsibility of making and running the school the way they want to. I have some of my colleagues here who you can meet later. But anyway, so they are in the driving seat. Educational reforms, giving teenagers responsibility and respect to take charge, be in the driving seat. And the government that they form takes serious responsibilities, real ones, like taking care of all the animals, cows, or taking care of solar-powered gadgets like this solar cooker, or growing organic food, solar electricity, greenhouses, and so on. And they learn the hands-on way. Innovation here revolves around the context of the mountains with earth, sun, ice, and fire. Earth is used to build the buildings, sun to heat, and here we apply what is in the textbooks to real life. You can see there the chapter on heat in grade 9, which talks of convection, conduction, radiation, comes alive when they build school buildings, houses, where convection of the air inside the greenhouse that you see when the sun warms it, the air rises, goes up, enters the house from the upper floor, gives its heat to the walls of the house, becomes cool and dense and is pushed into the greenhouse, and cycle continues all day. This is convection. Similarly, conduction, radiation are learned through practical experience, which makes lessons unforgettable, and they come up with solutions to the freezing cold climate of Ladakh, where minus 20 is usual. There are places with minus 35 to minus 45 also. These have led us to innovations which makes it possible for the school to live in plus 18 rooms when it is minus 20 outside. And a little bit of high school geography makes it the coolest buildings in summer also. What I'm trying to show is even in the toughest places, you can be resourceful, and without any fossil fuel, you can be as warm and comfortable as anywhere. Almost all the things run with solar energy, from cooking to vegetable production to lighting to electricity, water heating, water pumping, and even the cows at this school live in solar-heated cow sheds. Now, we talk of sustainable, or net zero. We need to think of net positive, regenerative lifestyles by now, because sustaining what is broken will keep it broken. We cannot sustain a decadent lifestyle. We'll have to contribute net positive so that we can undo the damages of the past. One good example here is that the house behind that you see is as comfortable as in New York or London, which are called modern. But those modern buildings burn fuels, trash the climate, and live in comfort. That's a very, not very positive way of living in comfort or being modern. This one does the same. It's warm as any house anywhere in the world, even if it is minus 20, but does it without causing any pollution. So it is beyond modern. It is actually regenerative rather than sustainable, because the trees that we plant can enrich nature because we don't need to burn them. Even if we burnt the trees that we grow, we could have been sustainable. But here, we don't burn, leave them to enrich nature and use the sun. Therefore, it's net positive. Similarly, the animals. The yaks we use for plowing rather than tractors, which produce smoke and nothing good. The yaks produce dung, which is a fuel for fire normally, traditionally, in all the houses here. But by not burning the fuel, which could have been sustainable because it's our yaks, we are letting the dung to go back to nature and become manure and make nature smile by using sun. So this is restorative lifestyle, regenerative lifestyle, and we need to talk about this for the future. Similarly, the glaciers are melting away, but we said we shouldn't again become silent spectators. We should do what we can. A few years ago, some of my students and we set upon a challenge to make our own glaciers, to keep the water that goes waste in winter. You can see here, this is a typical view of a village. There is a stream flowing, that's the heart of the village, and it flows throughout the year. In winter, when nobody needs water because there is no farming going on, the water goes waste into the river and into the ocean. So if we refreeze this stream, that is glacial melt, then we could keep it till summer when farmers need. That was the idea. Now, it was laughable to think of ice from January to be kept till June. So we used some high school physics, high school maths at this school, and we didn't want to use, neither we had resources like pumps and generators and so on. So to make water freeze, we used the geometric shape of a cone, which shouldn't melt too quickly because of the geometric shape. I'll explain. And to make a large giant cone like a pyramid of ice, that's 10, 12 stories high, you need big heavy pumps. We don't have those, nor do we want to use. So we use gravity, which is free for all. In mountains, there's always an upstream and a downstream. If you put a pipe upstream, bring it downstream where you need water, there is gravity, there is pressure in the pipe. And with this pressure, without any moving parts, pumps or fuels or pollution, you can start a fountain, like here. A fountain that gushes into the air. By doing that, you make the water lose its heat. If you remember your physics, latent heat, which keeps it liquid, and when water loses it, it becomes solid, ice. And it takes the shape of a cone. Now, a cone has low surface area for the given volume, and therefore, the sun doesn't get enough surface area to melt it, so it should last long. That was the hypothesis. This was the pilot. This is 6 stories tall, holds 1 million liters of water, and sure enough, more than our expectations, it lasted till June, and slowly it melts to add water to the streams. And combining tradition with technology, we called them stupas, which are these sacred monuments in the Himalayas, you can see there, dotting the landscape. So we call them stupas of ice so that people can connect with it. It should not be just a scientist's thing. It should be something that people can relate. Now, there are many of these that can be made. You can see the people in the center to know the scale. And the first one was 1 million liters. New ones like these have been 12 million liters, some 30 to 50 meters in height, and it's been spreading around Ladakh, neighboring countries, the Alps, and now in the Andes. This got us the Rolex Award for Enterprise, with which we started an alternative university after the alternative school. The university is called Himalayan Institute of Alternatives. Awards are fine, but we actually are not proud of them. The big but with this, the big but is that it's not going to solve our problems. Our problems are not in the Himalayas. Our problems start in the big cities of the world. So we wanted to give a SOS call to the world with the message, please live simply in the big cities so we may simply live in the mountains. And to connect to people around the world, especially young people, we didn't want to be preachy, so we created an interesting platform. 4 years ago, on the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, we said, let's connect to the world to give this message and appeal to them to pledge for lifestyle change. What can help us in the mountains is if people change their lifestyles in the big cities. So, on 2nd October 2019, we started a platform called the I Live Simply platform, or the movement, where people can contribute. It's set like a crowdfunding platform to make it interesting for young people. They can contribute, not dollars or money. Money cannot help us up in the mountains. What can help is lifestyle changes. So you can pledge here to change your lifestyle from using aeroplanes to trains, cars to bicycles, not wasting food, planting trees. Each of these pledges are translated by the platform into dollars, just to give an idea of what you're contributing. So, finally, with these appeals, last year, we wanted to make it even more serious, escalate the issue, because our glaciers are melting fast. We'll soon be climate refugees. So I set upon a mission to give messages to two people, two sectors. One, people of the world to change their lifestyles. Second, the government to change their policies, to protect the mountains and the fragile ecology there. So I set upon a mission to give a message to the Prime Minister to protect Ladakh with constitutional safeguards that are possible in the Constitution. And for that, I set on climate fasts, first a 5-day one, and then a 9 days fast to draw attention of the government and of the people. And people have been very, very supportive throughout Ladakh and India and the world. Actually, on the last day of the climate fast, roughly 10,000 people gathered of a city that is only 20,000 people. So the support from people has been immense, and this winter, I'm planning to go on a 21 days climate fast, same as Mahatma Gandhi did, but for new challenges that the whole world is facing. And I look forward to your support in this movement for climate-friendly lifestyle. And thank you all for being here and thinking of these issues. Thank you very much.
Once again, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, thank you so much for your sharing.